Hi, I'm Principal Don Wright. Welcome to McCorkle Middle School. McCorkle's pretty much like any other middle school in Texas. We're doing okay academically. Our football team took district last year. Go Marmots. And our teachers are, well, truth be told, teachers here have some ethical issues. I was brought in at the beginning of the year to help provide some guidance. And even though only 1% of Texas teachers are charged with ethics violations in a year, I'm beginning to think they're all here. Mr. Dill, remember what we talked about? No hugging.
Washington and his ragtag army stand on the shores of the Potomac. It's freezing. Their clothes are torn and threadbare. Hunger gnaws at their stomachs. The future looks as bleak as that December sky. But one thing keeps them going: the desire to live free. So they suck up their courage, climb into their little boats, and paddle across the icy river. Your assignment for next week is to write the lyrics to a heavy metal rock song about what happens next. The Battle of Trenton. Got that? Rock on, y'all.
Miss Vasquez is so cool.
Yeah, I wonder what heavy metal sounds like on a flute.
Yes, that is more like it, people. Music to my ears. Lila, can you stick around for a second? Just keep practicing. Look at that sheet work. Keep on working those scales.
We'll catch you later.
Lila, I just want to say how impressed I am with your playing lately. You've really been making an effort to improve, and it really shows.
Thank you.
I'd say that you're becoming one of the most talented flute players I've worked with.
Wow, really? Thank you.
I'm very, very impressed with you.
Thanks.
I'm really looking forward to the UIL competition on Saturday.
Me too. I'm just a little nervous.
No, don't be nervous. You can sit with me on the ride over. I'll help you settle those butterflies in your stomach, right?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
I've always liked Mr. Richmond. He's really nice, and he's always encouraged me. Jenna thinks he has a crush on me, but that's ridiculous. I mean, he's married.
Lila's a great girl, a real talent. She's just got so much potential.
I don't know if Lila sees it, but Mr. Ridgemont is definitely coming on to her.
That's such a cool bike.
Thanks.
Could I get a ride home? I missed the bus. I don't live far.
All right, get on. Here, put this on. You're gonna have to hold on tighter than that.
I would say the biggest problem we have at McCorkle in terms of ethics violations has to do with boundaries, that line between teacher and student that's designed to maintain a professional and respectful relationship. Now, some teachers knowingly cross that line. Others just kind of slide across without realizing what's happening.
This is from the band trip we took to South Padre Island last year. I brought my family along.
Heather, where are you? I don't want to be disqualified because we're late. Well, get your tail over here now. She'll be here in 2 minutes.
Okay, that's good. This is my second wife, Linda. Lila, Linda. You two look alike, you kind of have the same name. It's very funny.
I feel like I really got to know Mr. Richmond. You know, as a person, not just as a teacher. The part about his wife was a little personal, but I wish more of my teachers were as open and friendly as he is. Oh, and he gave me a gift. Mozart, my favorite. I thought that was sweet.
Moving on to prefixes, suffixes, and word roots. Let's take a look at some common prefixes. They include a, ab, b, mega, micro, bene, and mal. Then we have a special category of prefixes known as prefixes of quantity. Semi, hemi, Trevor, Trevor. Trevor! Name me two prefixes of quantity, now. Exactly, outside. Mostly I just try to get through the day without throttling one of them. They could really test you, you know? And you're not supposed to touch them. So I've got to use creative ways to get their attention and provide a consequence. Like the air horn. Although occasionally some of the other teachers do complain.
Thoughts about some of the stuff you saw. Let's start with, I believe her name was Miss Vasquez, the one with the guitar at the beginning.
She sounds fun in theory, but she just let one of her students, just as the principal said, it slide into a little more comfortable than they should be kind of zone.
Yeah, exactly. Just her behavior in class when she was giving them their assignment, giving them the scenario, playing the guitar. What was the vibe while she was doing that? Or what vibe was she giving off?
Too comfortable for comfort.
Say that again, Jacob.
Too comfortable for comfort.
Yeah, there was definitely a, I guess for a lack of a better word, there was just kind of a sexual vibe about it, or a sexual tone. And the one boy that was just staring at her intently, I think his behavior after that demonstrated that, oh, I really like her. Remember, middle school kids are going through some interesting changes at the time, and between hormonal changes and their developing sexual beings, they can misinterpret stuff very easily. So, and then of course he got on the motorcycle with her. Big no-no.
Oh, that was her?
Yeah.
I thought that was okay. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was her. Okay, Lila and Mr. Ridgemont. Lila was the flute player, Mr. Ridgemont was the band director. What were your thoughts about this one?
That man did everything wrong. I was getting like angry watching him. I was like, I could not believe, like, I know it's scripted, but like, oh my gosh, I could not believe what I was seeing. That was horrible.
I was getting like secondhand uncomfortable. Like so many things are wrong with that.
Yeah, no, it was from the way he was looking at her, the way he was talking, the way all of it was. Nah, it's a no for me. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so here we have a situation with the student going, oh, he's just really sweet to me. And so, well, she's not really misinterpreting his actions, but she is definitely responding to them. And then he's just crossing all sorts of boundaries. And yeah, they did cast him well. Yeah, it was funny. This was filmed at a middle school in Austin. It just, I don't know. And like I said, it's a whole series. So if you want to see it continue and what happens to all of them, you can watch it if you'd like. Okay, so there's Lila and Mr. Ridgemont, and as several of you commented, who gives Mozart as a gift? Mozart actually did not like the flute. Did you know that? And the flute concerti are transcriptions that he originally wrote for oboe, I want to say. I can't remember. So anyway, yeah, and the pictures of all the wives, that was super creepy. So, you know, too much sharing of personal information. I mean, yeah, pick a scandal. There was a lot going on there. Okay, the English teacher and Trevor. That was the guy with the air horn.
The screaming was a tad bit unnecessary. It's disruptive to other classes. Like I get it. You're trying. I mean, like I've had a teacher who's done that before, like with the air horn and stuff. But like, not like that. Like that is a little different.
Yeah, he's doing it all wrong. You gotta sneak up on him and then do it.
I had a
like
teacher.
Trevor at all.
Go ahead, Stephanie. What were you saying?
I've had a teacher like that actually. I'm not gonna say who because I'm gonna expose him. But he used to be like that in middle school, and yeah, and I think he was that way because he had been there so long. But he wouldn't do like a blowhorn. He would just like, I don't know, he was somewhat like that, but yeah.
Yeah, I will say, and we'll get into classroom management after the wellness break, the first wellness break, and after the midterm. But if you have to use abusive techniques for your classroom management, you need to relook at why you're there and your classroom management techniques. Middle school kids and teenagers fall asleep, and it's because they are going through so many changes. Their clocks, their internal clocks are also set differently. Elementary kids get up super early. Someday, some of you will have kids and you'll learn that young children get up very early in the morning. They are usually up by 6:30. Yep, 6:30 or 7. Doesn't matter what day it is. They don't understand that on the weekend you want to sleep in. I finally learned to keep my kids up a little bit later on Friday nights so they would sleep in a little bit. But so little kids get up really early. Older kids will sleep till noon given the given the opportunity. And some of you are just coming out of your teenage years and you probably are like, well, yeah, of course. And it's actually a biological thing. So there are better ways to get kids engaged in class, and air horn is not one I would recommend. Oh, Stephanie, your niece gets up every day at 5 and calls you. How sweet. Lord, no.
You know,
So
sometimes with little kids when they do stuff like that, you just gotta like calm yourself. because they don't understand that like you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, they don't get it. So anyway, yeah, if he has students falling asleep, he should look at how he's teaching. As I always said in job interviews, good classroom management begins with good planning on the teacher's part. If there's something, if the students are exhibiting behaviors you don't want, you need to look at what you're doing. So yeah. All right. So that will get us well into our next activity, which is where to go, keynote. Yep. Ethics scenarios. And I want to show you a couple of things. First of all, there is a new disposition form. Remember the disposition form, the music ed disposition form I showed you toward the beginning of the semester? Do some of you are going, I don't know. It was basically a rubric with different behaviors of effective music educators. And we actually spent some time going through it. Now we have a new one. And why we have a new one, I'll quickly explain. We have a new director of clinical placement at the College of Education. Music education and the College of Education work very closely together. For your placements and for your residency, for your field experience. And actually, they will ultimately be the ones to help you apply for licensure. So we have a new director of clinical placement. It's Dr. Robinson. She's wonderful. She worked at U of M ages ago and ages, that makes her sound ancient. She worked at U of M about 15 years ago, and I think she most recently came from Ole Miss. And she believes that this disposition form is more appropriate, and she wants a consistent one across all the education programs, general ed, art ed, music ed, physical ed. I think ESL is one of the other ones, English as a second language. So I want to show you this real quickly. Nope. No, whoops. Okay. Of course I closed it. Yay, there we go. And I will put this in eCourseware. I was trying to do some stuff in eCourseware this morning and was having trouble, so I will revisit that after class. Share screen and Microsoft. All right, so I'm just going to quickly zip through this. It's not a lot different than what I showed you before. It's just less specific to music, and that's fine. So category 1 demonstrates effective oral communication skills. So your choice of vocabulary is not too difficult and not too simplistic. This will be very important, especially when you actually get into teaching situations. I think probably your junior year will be your first opportunity for that, when you're in elementary methods and you actually will go into the classroom and teach elementary students. That I remember that being an adjustment for me, was communicating with elementary students in a way that they understood and in a way that was very direct and clear. It's not just about the grammar you use, it's how clearly you communicate with them too. You have to be extremely clear is the best way I can say it, in your communication with young students. All right, strives to vary communication as evidenced by some students demonstrating a lack of participation, or that doesn't make sense to me. But basically, I have not seen any issues with any of the way you communicate. Another aspect of this is that you speak grammatically, because you are a model to other students, to your eventual students. Demonstrates effective written communication. That's one of the reasons we went over how to write an email. And actually, I didn't see a whole lot of, I didn't see many problems prior to that discussion. But since then, I've noticed that you guys are using that technique, and it's highly effective. And I do recommend it, especially when you're communicating with a professor in another area. If you have to email a teacher about an issue in your class, using that sandwich technique of opening with a compliment, then stating the problem and what you need, and then closing with a compliment is a really good method. Demonstrates professionalism. That's based around your attendance, your punctuality, working collaboratively, staying on top of your assignments and your communication, responding to emails in a timely manner. And I know that can be a challenge, especially when you guys probably get a ton of emails. And if you've listened to, if you've been to any of the CNAFME stuff, Hannah Gibson, the president, has talked to you about, if you're going to email her about CNAFME stuff, not to use her personal email, not her personal email, her student email, but to use the CNAFME email, because she's trying to separate those things. I do recommend that when you get further into your careers, having a professional email and then having your personal email and keeping them separate. Seek solutions without prompting. Like tries to solve, and a lot of you do this because you will email me and say, this is how I've interpreted this assignment and this is what I've done toward it. You're finding your own solutions, and that is that's really good. In fact, I've seen quite a bit out of that quality out of this class. Preparedness in teaching and learning. So not so much teaching yet, although you are going to have a little teaching project after the midterm. But, being prepared in class, having done the readings, participating in discussions, value and appreciation for cultural and academic diversity, both in terms of race, class, gender, and differences in learning. Some people may not, let's see, some people may not, some people may be on a different, I guess, learning level than you, or they may, and actually this isn't a good example because not so much in college, but when you're actually in the classroom, you will have many different types of learners, as evidenced by the fact that a lot of you are taking SPED 2000 right now, and that's learning about different learners. And in some classes, like in math class, they will group students of the same ability together, so the classes aren't so divergent. But in music, you will often have gifted students, average students, slower learners, learners that struggle with reading, learners that the English is their second language. And as an effective music educator, you are expected to meet the needs of all of them through your teaching. And our goal is to equip you for that. But one thing you can do is have an open attitude about teaching everybody. Collaborating effectively with stakeholders. Right now, your stakeholders are one another and your professors. And I've seen a lot of good collaboration as you've worked on different group activities and assignments. Excuse me. Demonstrates self-regulated behaviors and takes initiative. Um, there's descriptives there. I will post this and encourage you to read through it. Exhibits social and emotional intelligence to promote personal and educational goals and stability. So you basically you demonstrate a maturity and a sense of perseverance and resilience, because I'm going to tell you most of getting through, or I believe a lot of getting through a degree is yes, doing the work and having um, the intellectual ability to do it. And I believe you do. That's why you're here. But it's also a matter of keeping yourself together and developing tools to get you through stressful times. Because times do get stressful. You know, sometimes all this is pretty easy, and sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, when am I going to have a break? So there you go. I will post that, as I said. So what I'd like to get into are the ethics scenarios. And excuse me. What we will do is we're going to split into different groups, and I'm going to give you an ethical scenario to go through. I want you to read the scenario with your group, and I want you to talk about what are the ethical considerations, 3 ways in which the teacher's actions could be interpreted or perceived, and are there any legal considerations? And you may not know the answers to all these things, but I want you to just do your best, because part of part of totally lost my train of thought. I apologize if I seem a little off today. I had my second COVID vaccine the other night, and I've been it's been interesting. But anyway, been a little feverish and achy. Okay, what was I saying? Ethical considerations. All right, so I'm going to give you this. Whoops. Hang on. I'm going to give you this link to a Google Doc. And let's take a look at it real quickly. Nope. There it is. All right. So we have, here's just an example. In fact, I'm going to go to the last one because we're probably not going to do group 7. Miss Delgado, a 3rd grade middle school orchestra teacher, complains to her next door neighbor about a difficult student in her class, identifying the child by name and providing specific details about the child's academic record. Ms. Delgado says that the neighbor doesn't know the student personally, so there should be no problem discussing the student and the situation. So what are ethical considerations in this? Just throw some stuff out.
I'm not sure if this is like, this is partly me asking. I'm not sure if this is an ethical consideration, but like if you also develop the habit of just talking to people about your students, developing like that, displaying that personal information about them, then you could accidentally bring it up with someone who does know them personally. I know that's not the only problem with it, but that was just one thing I was thinking about.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, what else?
I hope
Like,
she wouldn't be using
oh,
their
sorry.
real names and like that if she was speaking about a student.
Exactly. So there is something called the Family Educational Privacy Protection Act, or FERPA. I may not be remembering all the acronyms of it, but it's basically it protects you from, yes, it's the teacher's version of HIPAA. Yeah, the FERPA. So like when you were in school and you were under the age of 18 or in possibly up until the age of 18 when you were in school, your teacher could contact your parents and discuss things about your educational record. That's it, educational record. The Family Educational Record Privacy Protection Act. So if, excuse me, if one of Matthew's students wanted to discuss an issue he's having in math, the teacher could call up Matthew's parents and discuss that. But now that is there anybody in the class that is not at least 18 years old? I think all of you are 18 or older, yes? All right. So I cannot contact any of your parents to talk about the fact that you haven't been turning in an assignment or any of that. I am barred from doing that unless you actually sign. You can waive your FERPA rights as a college student, but I don't even go there unless there's really an issue. If there's a reason I should be contacting your parents. So anyway, so yeah, FERPA, you have no idea who the next door neighbor knows. Maybe the next door knows a friend of a friend of a friend of this kid. You never discuss student issues with other people, only the teachers directly involved, because it's an issue of privacy. All right. So let's break into groups, and what I'd like you to do is pardon. If you are in group 1, you'll take scenario 1. If you're in group 2, take scenario 2, et cetera, et cetera. So discuss what the issues might be in each of these things, and we'll come back and report in a little while. You'll have about 8 minutes. Here we go. So we are coming back after having looked at these ethics scenario, and we're going to, I think we're all back now. Yeah, we're going to go through each one and discuss it. So let me share my screen. Let me find what I'm looking for. So I do recommend getting the vaccine if you're able, but I'm going to tell you the second one is really interesting, and I'm grateful I've gotten it, but oh my goodness, I don't feel well. But anyway, I'll stop my whining. That sounds so privilegey. Let's start with group 1. Group 1, can somebody read the scenario for us?
Yeah, I can read the scenario. So, Miss Shipman is a veteran choir director who is very popular with her students. She frequently offers students extra rehearsal help after school, so it's not uncommon to see students visiting her choir room after school. She has offered voice lessons to one of her students, Melissa, over a 2-year period, as she knows Melissa's family cannot afford a private instructor. During that time, Ms. Shipman has emailed and texted Melissa's cell phone using her personal email address. At first, the exchanges were very general, sometimes unrelated to schoolwork, such as asking Melissa about a sick family member or how she was getting along with friends. Recently, the student began to text her teacher about more personal feelings. So, our group talked about like what are the really big ethical considerations, and one of the pretty obvious and most prominent ones was that Ms. Shipman is using personal methods of communication, like her cell phone and a personal email, rather than like school provided communication and school approved communication, and that obviously invites abuse by encouraging personal dialogue between teacher and student. Um, Three of the ways that we thought Miss Shipman's actions could be interpreted or perceived: one, favoritism towards Melissa. Like other students could see it as that. And obviously, we want like a like level playing field for all students. Um, Intentionally developing a personal relationship with Melissa. Um, like going out of her way to ask about like, oh, I heard you had a sick family member. How are they doing? Oh, how are you and your friends getting along? Are you guys like having a good time hanging out? Like stuff like that. Um, to the point that the student was like comfortable talking to her teacher about like very like personal feelings. And then we also thought, like, kind of getting away from that track, but we also thought it was kind of an unprofessional nature from Miss Shipman to like continuously be pushing for Melissa to take private lessons over like a span of 2 years. And we are talking like it's one thing for a teacher to offer that kind of thing, but then like to continuously be like pushing and saying, hey, I think this would be a really good idea over like such a long span of time, we thought was just like very unprofessional and gives off like a like not aggressive, but like an extremely upfront persona, which obviously as a teacher you don't really want to do. And then in terms of legal considerations, given the context of what we know about the scenario, there aren't any current considerations. Although eventually, if the relationship keeps continuing in this fashion, it could eventually invite legal problems like disclosing information about other students to Melissa, or possibly disclosing information about Melissa to Miss Shipman's other friends herself. And then um, Ms. Shipman does potentially have issues, though, with um, the whole personal email and cell phone, like in terms of like school policy and school board. Like there are certainly issues there and problems there, just not necessarily to like the legal level.
Yeah, good. Good job, group one. Yeah, I really appreciate that you included favoritism, because I know there's always, I think we immediately go to, I guess, the possible sexual overtones of a lot of this, but I want you to it's just a favoritism thing. That is, that's something you don't want to communicate, that, oh, well, this child is my favorite. And I'm giving this child more of my time, more of my attention. That's not a good look either. Good job.
I think another, if I may add, I think another thing to kind of keep in mind is that we as music educators, part of our, I mean, at least in my opinion, part of my job is to make sure that my students know that they can talk to me, but that there still is a line with that. That if I have a student who is having an issue of some kind of matter like that, I want them to know that it's that there are people to talk to about that. I'm probably not the best person as a teacher. However, I will still be open to, if you feel like that I'm the only one that you can trust, or another teacher is another, if it is some kind of situation like that, that is a little bit different. However, there still is a line within that situation that both the student and the teacher cannot cross for legal reasons, for ethical reasons, and that those things need to be addressed and laid out before any of those kinds of conversations occur, so that things aren't misconstrued, things aren't misinterpreted, anything like that.
Good. Yeah. you need to be careful about boundaries. The other thing that I would bring up is that if she is having, I think it mentioned personal issues. And if she is having personal issues that need the attention of a professional, you do not want to step into the role or get kind of evolved into the role of being a counselor for a student, because unless you actually have those credentials, you don't want to do that. All right, so group 2, tell us about Miss Sparks.
Were we supposed to read it? Okay. Miss Sparks is a veteran teacher and a popular band director for several ensembles. She is well known for her concern for the welfare of her students. Since the high school has limited resources to accommodate rehearsals and off-site performances for some of its ensembles, students are often responsible for their own transportation to other performance venues. Consequently, it is not uncommon for Ms. Sparks to provide personal transportation for one or more students to band events and back home after events. Okay, so what are the ethical considerations? I don't know who wrote this.
So I said the consideration of taking a student home, from an ethical point of view, could be unprofessional in some ways. Also, when you take a student home and you put them in your vehicle, you have to realize that now their lives are in your hand and you are in charge of them. So if anything happens, yeah.
Okay, somebody else in group 2, read the 3 ways the actions could be interpreted.
Yeah. So I went ahead and just put down, of course, like sexual, because people could always see it as a teacher trying to get sexually close to the student, just because like usually it's like one person that can't make it, because there's not enough room or something like that. And yeah, so people will think that. Also, it's just unprofessional to do that too. You don't want to just like have your students and just give them casual rides like that, just because it might become a habit. And once it becomes a habit, people will start assuming things. And yeah. The last one was kind of hard for us to figure out, but I went ahead and just said unfit, because sometimes parents will get upset about that, because they'll take it as an assumption by the teacher that the parent is not fit enough or can't be there for their child to give them like a ride, and it will cause like quarrel between the teacher and the parent, and you just don't want that. So yeah, those are the 3 reasons.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Because I would also add that if the teacher is providing the transportation, it gives the school and the district less incentive to try to fund those things, because really that should be funded by the school or the district. So the teacher is essentially giving them an out. And then legal considerations, you guys nailed it on the head. Legal issues if she didn't get permission, but mainly if there's an accident, you are liable. And it's generally more, it's more than your insurance would cover. So, because they could sue you, all sorts of things. And this gets into, and you won't really need to worry about this until you're in residency, that there is professional liability insurance that you will get as music educators. And that is essentially insurance against if you accidentally harmed a student, like while they're in your class, they trip over a stand and break their arm or something. You can be held liable for that, but the professional insurance will, they'll provide you legal representation and liability up to, it used to be $1 million when I was in the public school classroom, but now it may be higher, since $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to, I I guess none of us really have that problem of knowing that. So good job. You guys are doing really well on this. I like that. Yes, all the sexual overtones are present or could be present in all of these situations, but I appreciate that you're going beyond that, and getting to every issue. Group 3, can you share your scenario with us, please?
We had one, okay, I can read it. That was awkward. Miss Jackson is very popular with the students. He often converses and jokes with the students in the halls between classes. It's common for him to greet female students and staff with a hug and male students and staff with a pat on the back. One student has complained to the administration that Mr. Jackson's hugs or physical contact makes him uncomfortable. Mr. Jackson has been advised by the principal to stop all physical contact with students and staff. He agrees to try, but he can't promise anything because that is the way he is, and he isn't doing anything wrong.
I see a lot of head shaking. Somebody else in group 3, give her a break. Somebody else read the next part. What are the ethical considerations?
Touching students can be inappropriate even if the teacher does not have bad intentions. They can't control how a student interprets their contact, especially if they are minors. The teacher could get into serious trouble and lose their job.
Yes, definitely. And I would add that if you have ever known somebody on the autism spectrum, I won't limit this to people with autism, but a lot of people just don't like to be touched. And it could be for one reason or another. With people on the autism spectrum, it's pretty common. And you can't just touch everybody. And I would also add that if your principal tells you to stop it, you better stop it. And this, oh, well, I'll try, but I can't promise anything because that's just how I am. So 3 ways in which the this could be interpreted. I'm going to zip through these because I am cognizant of time. Violation of personal space. Yes, you guys are doing really well with this. And it may seem very obvious and simple to you, but this has not always been the case. Inability to follow school policy. Thank you. An act of physical aggression, patting students on the back. Sexual misconduct, hugging female students. Yes, you don't do that. I think we could probably all point to stories in the news, especially in the past few years, even around some schools around here, where this has been an issue. I see some heads nodding. There's a school out, one of the schools out in the suburbs that this was definitely, this came up. And yeah, it really, besides messing with students and possibly scarring them temporarily or for life, it also gives a bad name to the profession. So don't be that student. He could be accused, are there legal considerations? He could be accused of grooming or being predatory toward his students. Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Grooming, I'm impressed that you know that term. That's a term for a potential child abuser for basically creeping into a student's boundaries, gradually getting the boundaries less and less and less. A lot like the band director in the video we watched. I would describe that as grooming behavior. So good. Group 4. Someone in group 4 read this for us.
Oh, this was ours. Mr. Young is a new teacher in his first 90 days of employment in his district. He's made friends with many staff members and invited them to his Facebook page. On his page, Mr. Young has listed quite a bit of personal information and included pictures of himself at social events drinking alcohol. One of his colleagues visited the site and became very concerned because the site included a statement that Mr. Young was attracted to young girls, stating the younger the better. The colleague notified the principal of this information. So, some ethical considerations that we came up with was while technically he doesn't say anything illegal and drinking alcohol isn't illegal, with his position as an educator, these actions must be put under a different light, especially since he continues to post it on social media. With his comment on younger girls, this could be seen as a pedophilic comment on his students, even if he's only talking about 20-year-olds, because again, we don't know how old this guy is. Posting himself drinking alcohol is also inappropriate, as that can jeopardize his job as an educator, especially if he posts about it frequently.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here and say that I think you all know that stuff you put on the internet is forever, even if you delete it. So be careful about your social media and what you post on there. Because I know you're all college students, and I remember being a college student and not always making the best choices, although I'm sure you guys do. Just be careful and keep your Facebook or other social media profiles. I would keep them pretty locked down, as in not having them open to the general public. Yeah, I like that. 3 ways that it could be interpreted: unprofessional, creepy, and reckless. Yep. Hit a nail on the head there. Legal considerations, not really, but yes, they are very concerning. Group 5. Talk to us about Ms. Baker.
You still want us to read the prompt? Okay. Miss Baker is an educator with 20 years of service in the Tennessee Public Schools, with 7 years of service within her current district. Recently, Miss Baker, along with several other colleagues from her school, attended a wedding reception for another staff member. During the evening, she consumed several alcoholic beverages and, on her way home, was arrested and charged with driving under the influence. On 2 prior occasions within the past 3 years, Miss Baker has been convicted of DUI offenses. This most recent event was reported by the local news. I don't know if somebody else in my group wants to talk about it or like.
I can talk about it. Hold on, let me pull it. Ethical considerations: drink responsibly and don't drink and drive. Driving under the influence is dangerous to yourself and others in your community. That's obvious. 3 ways her actions could be interpreted or perceived: responsible, reckless, unprofessional. Considering that Ms. Baker was on the local news about her arrest from her 3rd DUI, her students and coworkers could see this, and this could affect how her colleagues and students perceive her. Legal considerations: her permanent record now has 3 total DUIs. This could be putting her position as a teacher at risk, as well as her ability to find a new job.
Exactly. Yeah, if there's one thing that superintendents and principals and administrators don't want to see, is one of their teachers on the news for a bad reason, because it brings bad publicity. I see a lot of you kind of laughing. It brings bad publicity to the district, and it's just not something you want to do. Yeah, total of 3 DUIs. She would likely be fired from the district and have a very difficult time getting a job somewhere else. She could lose her teaching license. So things to consider. Also, just drink and yeah, you're gonna go to parties and you may consume alcohol, but as they pointed out, drink responsibly. Don't drink to excess, because you never know who's there. Yeah. And of course, you don't want a DUI. All right. We are zipping right along. Group 6. Can somebody from group 6 read the scenario for us?
All right. So Mr. Roberts, a single band director, plays baseball on a local sports team. One Saturday evening, he was with teammates socializing and having a few drinks at a post-game barbecue at a local park. Later in the evening, several male and female students, sorry, that's my dogs in the background, several male and female students from his 12th grade AP Theory class arrived at the barbecue by car. They had all been drinking and continued to drink at the barbecue. As the evening progressed, a very friendly rapport developed between the teacher and the students. Okay, so the ethical considerations of this, he's getting too comfortable with his students. Like, there's that boundary we talk about, like a professional relationship between teachers and students. You don't want to be like hanging out, on your free time with them. He's also engaging with them while they're drinking underage, and I'm pretty sure it's underage. We all were, because if they're 12th grade, they're most likely like 17 or 18. They're not supposed to be drinking, so that's a problem. Three ways the teacher's actions could be interrupted or perceived. He could be viewed as taking advantage of his students, especially because they're drinking and they could be under influence. He could be like moving physically on them, or he could be like prying them about or just talking to them about information that's really personal. And even if he's not doing that, someone could point a finger and be like, "Hey, he could have been doing that." He could be viewed as exhibiting inappropriate behavior around students, drinking, hanging out outside of class. Um, and he could be viewed as pressuring students to drink, even if they're drinking of their own will. Anyone could point a finger and be like, "Hey, there's a teacher drinking with his students. He could be pressuring them." As far as legal considerations, we came up with prompting or allowing encouraging underage drinking. That's a problem. Knowingly seeing his students arrive via car while drinking and not doing anything about it. Like it points out in this sort of specifically that they arrived by car. So I think it's implied that they were driving while they were drinking, and that's a problem. And then there are always like potential sexual implications, especially with like male teachers and female students. So you got to watch out for that too.
Good. Good. All right. You really did a good job disaggregating this. Definitely, I can't remember the actual term for it, but this is a legal, this is definitely a legal issue. And I can't remember, providing alcohol to minors or something like that. So that's definitely an issue. Good job. All right. Okay. So our midterm is there. Our midterm is next Thursday. Brace yourself, midterms are coming. Do you have midterms in other classes? Yeah. Ours will be multiple choice, short answer, and fill in the blank. It'll be delivered electronically. I'm going to put the midterm review sheet up on eCourseware. There was one there, but actually, that one wasn't as you have actually covered more material than the previous group. So I'm adding a little bit more to it. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of, yeah, I know stress is a thing. A quick overview of it, but basically, and as I said, I will post this on eCourseware. Intrinsic and extrinsic benefits of music education, and I've also given you a reference of where you can find those things. 5 questions that comprise the basic components of the teaching process. What's a long-range plan, a unit plan, a lesson plan? How do you write an instructional objective? Purposes of assessment. These assessment terms and what they mean. Valid and reliable measurement. How do you create them? There's 4 rules. Oh, I may have to change this. List knowledge and skills and qualities of successful music educators. Actually, no, we can. So we're using a different U of M dispositions, but basically, forms of bias in music education: gender bias, racial bias, class bias. I'd like you to be able to name examples. The purpose of field observation, we actually didn't discuss this as much in class, but you can find that in chapter 5, purposes of student teaching or residency, and then be familiar with the major music education organization, their purposes, and their journal or journals. As I said, I will post this on eCourseware. Next Tuesday, we will go over this in class in both as a review, but also in a fun way, likely involving a Kahoot, because I really like Kahoot. I think they're pretty fun. So I will post that shortly. Be sure and check that out. Start working on it. Fill in what you can. You might want to get with some other people in the class to divide and conquer, because that's a really great way to get this done. And I believe that's about it. I have graded your observations, but I'm having trouble getting them to publish the results for some reason, so I'm going to have to contact tech about that. So no, you do not need to turn it in. Just have it as complete as possible. It will help you. It'll help your classmates. In any case, I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions, I'll hang around for a moment. Other than that, I will see you next Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Bye.